This is Brian French, and welcome back to Antique Auction News. Today we're going to be reviewing a auction in Boston. It is the Doyle auction, and it is going to be held September the 27th. Today's date is September the 21st. This auction has some interesting furniture and some interesting Chinese export ware and a few other pieces of art that I think people should know about. We're looking here on page 2 of the auction, and you'll see that there's a good number of Chinese export porcelain, and they've grouped a lot of these lots together. So you can see in some cases there's 4, 5, 6 items within a lot, which creates a significant opportunity for collectors and dealers. First one I kind of want to draw your attention to is the clobbered Chinese export wares that are in these listings. You can see here there are 6 objects of what I believe is Chinese export ware, and you can see the classic pitcher here, helmet pitcher, as well as a teapot, a vase, and pouring vessels, all of which looks, in my opinion, yeah, that's definitely a early 19th century, late 18th century picture here. So this is a lot of 6 items. I would expect that probably the helmet pitcher, maybe $100 to $150, and then the other items ranging from $200 to as much as $400 for the double-handled pitcher. So you're probably looking at a total here of over $1,600 for this lot. It starts at $200, and the sales estimate is between $400 and $600. So that's an opportunity. Another grouping of clobbered ware are these predominantly rose water sprinklers, and so these are the ones with the very small spout at the top. And what these were used for is the Chinese would take water and roses. They would crush up roses and let them kind of sit and evaporate, and for that rose water to become stronger, and they would use it as like a hand sanitizer and an anointment, and that was also used in ceremonies, and so that's the use of it. These are not for rosebuds or anything like that. The one centerpiece is actually Japanese amari and not of high quality. So this is actually early 20th century piece and maybe has a value of $50. The other pieces do have significant value because they are predominantly 18th century Chinese that have been clobbered. And what clobbering means is that these items were exported from China to Europe, and in Holland what they would do is they would paint them to make them more lively colors and to get them to sell better. And so they would ornate these with gold gilding and bright colors and kind of spice up the design beyond the conventional blue and white. So each one of these probably has a value of, excluding the Japanese piece, I would say $200 to $300 each. And so if we just use $200 and there's 11 of them, or we back out the Japanese piece, that's 10. So that gets you to $2,000 kind of in market value. A few of these items would probably go even higher. The larger jug here would probably go higher, quite possibly the gilded sprinkler bottles. I would call for a condition report because some of these do look like they may have repairs. So, and it's quite common because people would try to stuff things in here, and a lot of times they would break off the tips. But in general, this is a good lot to look at. A lot of Chinese export porcelain here that has been clobbered and looks like an opportunity. The next lot is a set of 4 prints. Now, 2 of these are by Piranesi, which is a very famous engraver of the 18th century, and the other 2 are Rossini, which is maybe a little less famous of an engraver. These engravings are of Rome, and during a time where Rome was under disrepair, And what would happen is that a lot of the noblemen and rich and wealthy people of the 18th century and even into the 19th century would go on what's called the world tour, and they would visit Rome and study architecture and Roman history and discover artifacts. And as a way of, instead of going to college, you would go on a grand tour, which could last as long as a year and a half. And this was to kind of get you to understand the culture and the beauty of the ancient world and of the Renaissance. And so that's what Piranesi and Rossini fed, is the appetite for Roman architecture of the 18th century. These, in my opinion, are probably worth about $400 a piece. So total, you're looking at $1,600 in potential if you were to resell them. That's what I would resell them for. The frames are not that appealing to me. These look like stock frames. They're all the same size. And you can see in some cases they're not perfectly done. If you like it and can withstand it, keep it. But I would see if they can ship you this without the frame and just the artwork. Shipping frames is kind of complicated. It increases the weight a lot. You probably have to put these in two different boxes before you ship them, or else it'd be too heavy. And I wouldn't have an interest in the frame and the glass and all that stuff. So I just would want the artwork. So that's an interesting piece. The next item is a painting, and this is a painting by Christian von Hohenberg. There is some significant auction records on this artist. This is attributed to him. So it's the auction house's belief this is likely to be painted by him, but they are not guaranteeing that it is by the artist. What I think is most significant about this painting is that, first of all, it's early, and I do believe it's of the 18th century or earlier. You can see it does have Dutch noblemen over here. And more importantly, it does have the Dutch trading vessels in the harbor. So this is a scene of the VOC, or the Dutch East India Company, coming aboard land in a port town that they're visiting. They're having a party, they got music playing. But this is, and you can see the Dutch flag up here and the Dutch flag on the ships in the harbor. And these are obviously the leaders of the expedition. A lot of action in there. There's somebody in a fight back here, a little carousing going on. If you are interested in this painting, what makes it of value and appeal to me is that the 18th century and before, the whole world trade, the biggest company to date in the world was the East India Company. So this was a global company that traded around the world, in China and Japan to Europe and elsewhere. So this is what a lot of historians believe is the greatest corporation and the first large corporation ever created. And to have a scene like this, where it shows that there's ships in the harbor and they're under an expedition, and they've come across a port and they're going to have some fun, would be of tremendous interest to somebody who collects, let's say, Chinese export porcelain. So this is an interesting painting. I would say that if you examine the painting, there are parts of the painting that have had some in-painting. And so I can see up here at the top that's been touched up. The painting also is quite dirty and could use a cleaning. But with that said, I consider this historically important. And you can see the starting value for this painting is $1,000. This painting is 71 inches wide. So you're looking at almost 6 foot wide and 40 inches tall. That is a big painting. There you can see some of the attribution to the artist on the back here, and it's been covered up. Now this painting looks to be relined, most certainly. I don't know why there's cardboard here. That's got to go. It should be something that's acid neutral, but you definitely want to keep this attribution label. It does describe the painting somewhat and could be evidence if you wanted to help prove it. This artist, you can find them, and his works have sold up to $62,000, sold things at, kind of around the world, Sotheby's and Christie's. And I would say that in looking at these paintings that have sold, I don't find the subject matter nearly as interesting as the work that we see here. So this to me looks to be a lot more interesting work by the artist than what has been, kind of at auction in the last 20 years or so. So an interesting painting, a big painting on an important subject, which is world trade and the China trade with the East India Trading Company, or the VOC. The last item is a set of 3 Chinese export porcelain. This is a charger. This charger is 15 1/4 inches in diameter, and this looks to be Kangxi. Now, what I like about this is you can actually see on the back side here a little bit of that fritting, which you'll see often in Chinese export porcelain, as well as the tannish foot rim, which is characteristic of Kangxi or 18th century ceramics. So these pieces look like the real deal to me. The charger alone, a Kangxi charger that's in good condition, and this appears to be, again, I would call for a condition report. I would say that the charger's worth at least $1,000. And I would say the other 2 pieces are probably worth $700 a piece. So you're looking $2,400 for the lot. This is what makes this auction quite interesting, is the way they've lotted things together. And if you can just kind of do the math of what are reasonable prices and reselling items, I think you could do really well. So this is the Doyle auction that's going to be held in Boston, September 27th, 2024. And the name of the auction is Boston Collects. This is Brian French with Antique Video News and Wondrous Things. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to these videos, and we have more videos coming.